You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 14, You Don't Decide Your Future. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hello, welcome back. I hope you're having a great day and that you've had a good week. Thank you for tuning in for another episode. How has the breathing been going? Do you ever catch yourself breathing through your mouth? Have you tried nasal breathing while exercising or considered taping your mouth shut while you sleep? Today, we're going to talk about how you don't decide your future. Sounds a little depressing and pessimistic. I promise we're not about that here. It comes from the awesome quote I love. I'm sure you've probably heard it from John C. Maxwell, who said, "You don't decide your future. You choose your habits, and your habits decide your future." He also said, "You will never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret to your success is found in your daily routine." While we're quoting, let me sneak one more in here. James Clear says that for the first 30 years of your life, you make your habits. For the last 30 years of your life, your habits make you. That's a great quote too, but I don't like that it presupposes that we're only going to live for 60 years. Maybe he means the first 30 years of our adult life, but still. I like thinking bigger for my health span and longevity than 60 or 80 years. Back to our futures. We do have control, but we're one step removed from directly determining our future. We can change our lives, but it's going to take doing something every day for a while to make it happen. It's kind of related to the lead measures and lag measures that we've talked about before. If our habits are going to determine our futures, we need to pay close attention to them, right? What habits do you rock that you know are creating an awesome future for you? That's like you. What habits could maybe use a little work? That's okay too. Let's start super basic. How do you define a habit? What is it besides what a nun wears? I think a good definition is an action that you repeat with little or no effort or thought required. Did you hear that last part? With little or no effort or thought necessary. That's where the magic is. It's what author Tynan calls the loophole that allows you to upgrade your health, quality of life, productivity, and enjoyment of the world with a fixed expenditure of energy in creating a habit, rather than an ongoing drain on your willpower. He also says that people often marvel at what they think is a deep well of self-discipline that he has, but he says it's actually just a bunch of habits that feel easy. Easy because they don't require effort or thought and are not an ongoing drain on his willpower. He says that habits are the closest thing we can get to having superpowers. So maybe we should change that phrase to, you don't decide your future, you choose your superpowers and they decide your future. I like it. What do you think? I love the idea of having superpowers and being able to decide what they are. The people that we most admire for excelling at work, in health, in their families, in service, and so on, are not built differently or better than the rest of us. They are just better at building and sustaining intentional habits. That's why it seems like they have superpowers, because they do. And you can too. In order for it to become a superpower, you need to create a humongously awesome habit that is a drastic change from what you normally do. Right? You need to go from eating convenience food every night to meal prepping 21 meals a week made of all organic vegetables and superfoods. From collapsing into the couch after work every night to enrolling in Ironman triathlons. From being constantly frantic to meditating for an hour twice a day. Right? No, I'm sure you get that, but I do think we still have a tendency to think that huge gains require huge effort. You may have heard this little story before, but it's still brilliant for illustrating this. If I told you that I'll either give you $3 million in cash today, which would be super awesome if I had that ability, or I'll give you 1 penny today and double it every day for 31 days. Which would you prefer? Let's say you take the 3 million now and your friend opts for the doubling penny. You might feel pretty smart on day 1 when your friend only gets a penny. You'll also feel good on day 5 when your friend gets 16 cents. And on day 10 when she gets $5.12. On day 20, she's only up to $5,243. You're feeling pretty good. But the magic of the compound effect eventually kicks in, as it always does. Fast forward to day 31. Your friend gets $10,737,418.24. Crazy, right? In only 31 days, only starting with 1 penny. In his book, The Compound Effect, Darren Hardy says that he wants you to, quote, know in your bones that your only path to success is through a continuum of mundane, unsexy, unexciting, and sometimes difficult daily disciplines compounded over time. Know, too, that the results, the life, and the lifestyle of your dreams can be yours. If you use the principles outlined in the compound effect, you will create your fairy tale ending. End quote. We've got superpowers and fairy tale endings. It all sounds pretty glamorous, right? I think it really is, but that in the moment, it doesn't feel that way. It feels boring and slow. A lot of people get tripped up by the simplicity and seeming insignificance before they get a chance to observe the magic of the compounding process. My Optimize Coach founder, Brian Johnson, actually sat down and created a spreadsheet to see what would really happen if you literally got 1% better at something every day. After 1 year, you'd be 37 times better at it than when you started. Want to be 37 times better at living a life that doesn't require a litany of prescription medications now or in the future? Just get 1% better every single day by installing small habits to run on autopilot. After 2 years, you're not 74 times better, you're now 1,400 times better. After the 3rd year of aggregating and compounding those 1% gains, you're now 53,405 times better. At 5 years, you're 76,240,507 times better. His Google spreadsheet literally couldn't calculate what would happen at 10 years, or day 3,650. The last normal number it showed was on day 3,472 when you're 998,822,690,9,590 times better. That's nearly a quadrillion times better. Pretty powerful stuff. Harvard professor Ellen Langer says that our potential is unknowable. Literally. It's impossible to know what we're capable of until we actually let go of the limits and start doing little things consistently. The compound effect can also be an insidious path toward a negative result, like poor health. Small, little, unhealthy habits compounded over time can lead to disastrous effects. I have, unfortunately, seen this over and over and over with patients who have gone along with the momentum and lack of effort and thought required from habits. What their autopilot chose for them by default was no big deal, until it had compounded into a very big deal, and it was too late. Their habits had determined their reality, and now they were facing a very different future than they had hoped for. They were severely limited in vitality or endurance or mobility or memory, and instead of being able to go out and give back to the world, they were faced with a scary and disheartening future. This isn't to say that someone with a health struggle did something wrong or should be blamed or shamed in any way. That doesn't help anyone, and blaming patients who need help is never okay. Everyone has done the best they know how and should be honored and helped with compassion and skill. There are times when bad things happen to all of us, no matter how hard we try. But most of the common and chronic diseases of our society are frequently preventable and oftentimes reversible, even if your doctor tells you otherwise. Cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, chronic pain, cancer, Alzheimer's, liver disease, even autoimmune diseases, and more can be prevented or significantly lessened by habits alone. Remember, they're your superpowers. I'm sure you've heard the story a bunch of times that a plane is taking off from Los Angeles heading to New York City, and the nose of the plane is pointing just 90 inches or 3.5 degrees south. It will land in Washington, D.C. rather than New York. 90 inches off at the start equals hundreds of miles off at the end. Again, little things matter. The direction you're pointing matters. The first step toward changing is awareness. If you want to get from where you are to where you want to be instead of Washington, D.C., you have to start by becoming aware of the little choices that lead you away from your desired destination, inch by inch, day by day. The basal ganglia in our brain is literally programmed with repetition, and the more times you repeat a behavior, the more you reinforce your identity in relation to that behavior. The word identity is derived from the Latin words essentias, which means being, and the word identidem, which means repeatedly. So your identity is literally your repeated beingness. So, how's your repeated beingness? Are you headed in the right direction and becoming who you want to become? Are you eventually going to land your plane in New York? Or are you drifting slightly off course? It's okay if you are. Pilots make little corrections all the time during the flight. It's not a big deal. In fact, it's an expected part of the journey. Are you clear on exactly where you're going and who you want to become? The author Tynan says in his book, Superhuman by Habit, quote, "New habits are the things that you do, but old habits are the things that you are. There's a difference between waking up early and being an early riser, eating a healthy meal and being a healthy eater, getting some work done and being a productive person. If you want to improve yourself permanently, you must develop more old habits, which is done by creating new habits and sticking with them until they mature into old habits. You know that a habit has crossed that threshold when it becomes something that you subconsciously do rather than something you must think about doing." End quote. I love that idea and a lot of the concepts from his book. Enough that it almost makes me okay with the fact that he goes by a single name, Tynan, like Madonna or Pink. Or Bono. I do love Bono though. Maybe it's not that bad. Do me a favor though, when you call the pharmacy, tell them your whole name. Ugh, pet peeves. Okay, what you believe about yourself makes up your self-identity. What you believe about yourself is largely influenced by what you repeatedly do. I hope you also know that you are more than just what you do. You are divine in nature and divine in potential. You are worthwhile and worthy just because you exist. If you want to evolve and progress, you should, but not because you think it will make you a better or more worthwhile person. Your identity is not at all set in stone. You can change your beliefs about yourself. I love the idea of choosing to act from the identity of who you aspire to be. What's for lunch? Well, I'm a healthy eater, so obviously I will choose this colorful vegetable soup. Or, gosh, is it a waste of time and money to look into adding some of the vitamins or supplements that I keep hearing about into my daily routine? Well, I'm a healthy person who values preventative health care rather than reactive sick care, so yes, I'm willing to spend a little time now developing a plan that will save me years of suffering in the future. Knowing who you most truly want to be and acting as if or from that identity until it truly becomes an old habit that requires little or no effort or thought will help you stay on course as you build your superpower. Something else you can do to stay on course is to surround yourself with like-minded and supportive people. I'm sure you've heard the Jim Rohn quote or theory that you become the combined average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. There's something to that for sure. In his book Atomic Habits, James Clear says, "One of the most effective things you can do to build better habits is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. Your culture sets your expectation for what is normal. Surround yourself with people who have the habits you want to have yourself. You'll rise together." End quote. Ah, beautiful. What is your most desired behavior? What habit will make the biggest difference in keeping you on track toward your desired destination? What resources are you aware of that might allow you to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior? Who can you think of who already values that behavior? At the time I'm recording this in September 2021, I have more questions than answers about how I'm going to bring together all the ideas I have for the Health Courage Collective, but a key part of what I hope to do is to create a community of smart, forward-focused women who can learn, support, and encourage one another so that we can all rise together. If you have any great ideas of how to establish this, I would love to hear about them. In the meantime, I'll keep working on it, and I hope to have some awesome opportunities coming up shortly. It's exciting. I'll leave you with a quote from Darren Hardy from the book, The Compound Effect. The key is start now. Every great act, every fantastic adventure starts with small steps. The first step always looks harder than it actually is. End quote. So, what's your first step, my friend? This is your great act, your fantastic adventure. You can and do determine your future, and you can make it anything you want. Next week, we're going to talk about mitochondria. Until then, don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.